Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to the show. Listen, this is going to be a special show. I'm going to I've been working on this for weeks, trying to figure out which way this thing's going to go, because there's been so many twists and turns in it ever since this virus came along. But one of the things that I figured out is that in September of 2019, when the repo madness began, that was when the money went supercritical. I'll call it supercritical. That's a term from the nuclear age. I'll tell you a little story. There was a fellow that worked in a laboratory with something called the Demon Core, and what that was it was a spherical nuclear device that if the two spheres of metal come together, the ball inside would go supercritical, basically detonate. Okay, and he was doing experiments or whatever, and there were supposed to be metal shims that they were supposed to use to separate the two spheres, because if the two spheres come together on top of the metallic ball inside, it would go supercritical. And what supercritical basically is like your nuclear reactors out there. There's critical. Critical is when the thing starts to have a nuclear reaction, starts to put off heat, and that's like a nuclear reactor. But then supercritical is when it gets ready to explode, basically, And, if a nuclear thing goes supercritical, you got to get the heck out of there. And you might not be able to get out of there quick enough. I mean, if it's a big device, you get in your car and drive, and you still wouldn't get away. You might drive 5 miles and you wouldn't get away. The thing goes, because these are very powerful. Very powerful. Splitting the atom is extremely powerful. It releases tremendous amounts of energy. So he was in the laboratory. And he wasn't doing as he was supposed to do. It was supposed to be metal shims put in place to hold this thing. But he is just using a screwdriver instead of the metal shims. And somehow the screwdriver slipped out or whatever, or he dropped the screwdriver. I can't remember exactly what happened according to the story, but anyway, he messed up. And the two spheres come together. And he panicked. And he stuck the screwdriver and he flipped the lid off that was on top of the sphere, releasing the radioactivity into the room. Of course, he stopped the supercritical reaction and probably saved the whole laboratory and maybe for a quarter mile around, But at the same time, he released the radiation into the room and into himself. And basically, over a period of days, the man died. And, it wasn't pretty. But using this term, supercritical, what we're looking at here is the money. Our money in September, when the repo madness began, it went supercritical. And what I am actually talking about by saying supercritical, I mean it's on a parabolic curve upwards. It's gone exponentially upwards. It started then. That's when it started. It was like critical. If you're talking about nuclear, it was like critical for like 100 years, where it was slowly heating up. But it's went supercritical now. It's went into this final stage of exponential growth of the monetary supply. And if they try to stop it, well, that would be a unparalleled crisis. I mean, I'm not even going to go there. That would be so bad. And that's deflation. And there's a lot of people out there who think it's going to go deflationary and they're hoarding dollars. Well, I'm just going to tell you that crisis would be so bad your dollars would be worthless. For about 2 weeks, your dollars might buy a lot more than normal, but ultimately it would boil down to where everything would just basically stop. And the dollars are only worth something because of the entity they represent, which is, in the case of the dollar, which is either the United States government or the Canadian government. We have dollars too, And that's why they're worth something. They're worth something because the government backs them. The government is what they are, is their sovereign currency, their fiat currency. That's why they're worth something. So if the government, I mean, if you get a crisis, it basically shuts everything down to the point where, it just, I'm not even going to go there because I really don't think that's ever going to happen. Because they're not going to let it happen. But they're toying with things right now. What they're doing is they're letting a little bit of deflation in the system, trying to slow down or cool down this reaction, this heating up of the money, this supercritical reaction. They're trying to cool it down by letting a little bit of deflation exist in the system, on Main Street mostly. Well, while the Wall Street system right now is just, it's just gone supercritical. So there's where we're at. So what's the solution to all this? Well, what do I think is the most likely thing that's actually going to happen? I think the most likely thing that's going to happen is what's already happening. It's going to be a continuation of what's already happening. I think you're going to find that they're going to probably end up agreeing on some sort of a big stimulus package. And it's probably going to be bigger than the skinny package that we had last time, that they were planning on, that they canceled. Oh, I think it was 1.1 trillion, the skinny package. And I think that they're going to have a bigger package come along than that, maybe twice as big. Just wait for it. I think it's coming. I think it's going to be more of the same. I think they're going to keep pumping the money into Wall Street. And, when this new stimulus package comes along, I think you're going to see the stock markets even go up higher. Because they can't let anything fall. Everything's become too big to fail now at this point. Except for maybe the smaller businesses and the smaller things like restaurants and bowling alleys and small shopping centers and stuff. They just letting them go broke. But anything that's too big to fail, they're supporting. And it's just, the system has gone haywire now at this point. So what we're actually headed toward is, in the very near future, is them just pumping the money out there, supporting Wall Street, Main Street suffering along, and at a certain point, I think you're going to see things start to turn around for Main Street a little bit. And we're going to enter into some sort of a little bit of an economic recovery, probably in 2021. During 2021. And it's not going to be a vibrant economic recovery, but it's going to be something better than we see now. It's because of all this money starting to filter its way down through the system. Then what's going to happen? Well, I think moving on into 2021, probably late in the year, we're going to see what they call 1970s style inflation. What this actually is, do not be fooled by it. It's actually the beginning stages of the hyperinflation. It's called the acceleration phase. That's what it's called. And there's no way out of this. The things I'm telling you guys right now is the only other way out to escape this, now that everything's gone supercritical, just like in a nuclear, the only way out to escape all of this is to let it deflate. And that would be an unparalleled crisis. They can't do that. They would lose control of the entire system. And this is all about them maintaining control. And there's only one way they can maintain control, and that's through money. Keeping the system together with money. Because everything runs on money. And, the things I'm talking about here, are actually a bigger disaster than the disasters we've been through. I mean, look at what's going on right now. We've got floods and hurricanes in the southeast. The west coast is on fire. We've just got through having a lot of the cities being burnt. There's still buildings that are all burned out, in the cities and everything. We've had this virus. It's just like this year, I've never seen anything like it. And the monies went supercritical in September of last year. But here's the thing. All these other disasters, like California burning, cities on fire, floods and droughts and hurricanes and everything else, all of these things pale in comparison to the fact that the money has went supercritical. The money is on an exponential that can't be stopped. And this is where we need to focus our attention, because this is the biggest crisis of all. And there's only one place that it can lead to, ultimately, because they're not going to want to lose power. They're going to keep pumping the money in there to keep everything running. But it's going to take more and more and more money because of this, because it's went supercritical. And, you know, they're only going to debase that dollar so far in the 2021. Probably in the second or third quarter of 2021. They're only going to debase that dollar so far that the people are going to start to lose confidence in it. And they already are starting to, but I mean, they're going to really start to lose confidence in it. Like big time. And we're going to see gold and silver, I'm just going to say, basically disappear. It's going to become very difficult to buy it in any quantity. You know? And this is a limiting factor for gold and silver. Because there's so much money out there now, and there's so much new money being created, that there's more than enough money to buy all the gold and silver in the world. 10 times over. 50 times over. So, I mean, once you can't get any, you can't allocate it in any sufficient amounts, then what? Then what do you do? Well, then, there's only one other route out of the dollar, and that's cryptocurrencies. And that's exactly where they're going to go, with all that excess liquidity. And they're going to pump that. After they pump the gold and silver is going to go first. I've said this for years. The gold and silver is like the fried chicken. And the cryptocurrencies are like the big pot of corn. And they're going to go for the fried chicken first. It's going to disappear. But then when there's nothing else and they're hungry, they're going to go for that big pile of corn, you know, to try to satisfy their appetite. And we're going to see that push the cryptocurrency price up massively high, too. And here's where I think the end game's going to come in all this. And if you guys have watched me this long, you know, right now, you've stayed on my video up till now, you're going to get the end game right here. What I think is going to be the end game. It's not good enough to have a new gold-backed dollar. That's not good enough. That will not compete with Bitcoin. I mean, just a non-backed dollar, a dollar that's backed by nothing like it is now, is absolutely never going to be able to compete with the cryptos, with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin imitates gold. There's only one way that they can make a sufficient competition with, and make their dollar so that it's useful again, and it's not gold backing. Because to just gold back the dollar, to say, okay, the dollar's backed by gold, people will say, well, they could be lying about how much gold they have. Where's the audit and everything? And in order to really make it successful, people are not stupid. They're going to say, okay, you said your dollar's backed by gold, but it's not redeemable in gold. They're going to actually have to go back to having a dollar that's redeemable in gold. And, you know, just to gold back it ain't gonna cut the mustard. Because people are gonna be so, anti fiat. You know, the old saying, fool me once. You know, people are gonna be so against fiat currencies. Currencies are backed by nothing. The majority of the population, you know, they don't know about hyperinflation until hyperinflation hits them. And then they realize what this is all about, and what this whole game is all about, and that their currency wasn't backed by nothing. And then they're mad because this is their savings. There can be a really quick learning curve, guys. A really quick learning curve for all these people out there. Like, you've seen them on things where Mark Dice goes out and tries to give them a 10-ounce bar of silver or a chocolate bar, and they take the chocolate bar. All those people out there can have a very quick learning curve when they lose their money. When their bank account becomes worthless. That's a very quick learning curve. And then they're not going to want trust for you. So how do you get that trust back after you've completely and utterly destroyed it? They are going to have to back their currency with something. And the biggest thing in my mind thinking that they're going to back it with is probably gold. But here's the thing. It's not going to be good enough just to say, okay, we back our currency with gold. They're going to have to make their currencies redeemable in gold. But it's the minute that they do that, then they're going to finally, there's going to be something out there that's a challenger, a real solid challenger to cryptocurrency. Think about it for a minute. Okay? The central bank, instead of just releasing a digital currency backed by nothing, think about what would happen if they released a digital currency that was not only backed by gold, but redeemable in gold. And had all the capabilities of Bitcoin. Could be transmitted across the internet seamlessly and quickly. And you know, if they've done all the groundwork for the government with these cryptocurrencies already, all the technology's already there, ready to step into. It's like the boots. The boots are sitting there, ready to step into. And I think the obvious solution for them, and the only solution for them, after the people are completely disgusted, see if they release a cryptocurrency, government-backed cryptocurrency, that's not backed by anything at all, after they've destroyed the people's savings with their phony money. Basically, it's just phony money. The people are going to be wise to all of this. So I think that that's their only option left if they want their money to have any value, because if they release a cryptocurrency and it's not backed by nothing, it's not going to suffer any better fate than the dollar that they just got rid of. It's going to go down quicker than it wouldn't last 48 hours. And if the dollar goes to worth almost nothing because of a hyperinflation, and then they release a new crypto dollar, well, it's just going to do the same thing. Because people aren't stupid. They know it's just a conversion over to a new technology, but it's the same old crud. So it leaves them only one option. They're going to have to back it by gold and make it redeemable in gold. But then when they do that, then they've got what they need. They've got the thing that they need that can actually go head to head against Bitcoin. A challenger. Ever since Bitcoin's been released in 2009, there's been no challengers to it. It's got the new technology, and it's got the setup. So there's only ever be 21 million Bitcoins, a hard limit to how many there will ever be. It's also the way the scaling is set up on it, so that the mining gets more and more difficult every year, and they keep doing this thing called the halving. You know, and the whole way it's set up in a deflationary manner. And it's never had a challenger. If the government did that, if they made a redeemable currency, redeemable in gold, and they'd create a challenger for Bitcoin, what do you think would happen then? Well, that might come after Bitcoin has been the recipient of a tremendous amount of maybe a whole year or 2 years of hyperinflation. Can you imagine what a year or 2 years of hyperinflation would do to the price of Bitcoin? You'd be looking at a price that maybe you can't even put in dollar terms. It would be so, you'd be able to buy one Bitcoin. You'd be able to go out and buy yourself a luxury mansion. You'd be able to buy yourself a Lamborghini. You'd be able to put your kids through college. It's just on one. It could go that high. Right? And then all of a sudden the government comes out. Bitcoin's in massive heights, and way up to the moon in price. And so's gold and silver. And all of a sudden the government comes out with some new cryptocurrency of their own that's got all the latest technologies, all the bells and whistles, even works better than Bitcoin. And it's gold-backed and gold-redeemable? And the Bitcoin price is in a bubble? Think about that for a minute, guys. Just think about that for a minute. Let it sink in. And then, what happens? Well, that's the reset. At the end of the hyperinflation, the reset. And, if they were to do that, create a gold-backed currency that's redeemable in gold, and set it so it's dollar for dollar with the old dollar in the morning. They say the first day they start to sell it. They say, okay, everybody out there can redeem their old dollars for new dollars, and the new dollars are back, and there'd just be a massive amount of people in the redeeming business trying to get the new dollar backed by gold. So it'd start out in the morning at $1 per $1 when they first opened up. Within the first 5 minutes, it'd probably be $1 for $2 of the old dollars. And an hour later, it'd be 100 of the old dollars for one new dollar. You see where I'm going with this? So that probably would release it, and the rich people probably get first crack at it. Isn't that always the way? They would take their billions and buy into the new dollars, and they'd get first crack at it, and they'd buy 1 for 1 or 1 for 2, and then by the time all the normal common folks out there get their crack at it 2 weeks later, it would be like 1,000 to 1. That's what they always do to us. They always mess us up. And they never let us get ahead. And you know what they would end up doing? I can just see it now. They would they would make it so that your mortgage and everything else, they would transfer it over from the old dollars into the new gold-backed dollars. So anything you owe, like if you owe for credit card debts or whatever, they just do a transfer over from the old dollar into the new dollar, and you'd have to work hard for those new dollars, not like the old dollars. So I'm going to tell you guys, be wise, and when you see this hyperinflation happening, take that as your advantage to get everything paid off. Everything paid off. Try to pay everything down as slow as you can pay it. Because I think they're going to do this. I think we're going to go from an old dollar to a new dollar. And I think the new dollar you're going to have to really work hard for it. It's going to have buying power. Something like the dollars did back in 1914. When you could go out and buy a house for $1,000. And because we've been slowly smothered with this inflation, we haven't noticed it. Because I remember when I was a kid. When I was a kid, for like $10,000, there was houses you could buy, pretty nice houses around our community. You could buy for like $10,000. Maybe a little bit fixer-upper, but on a nice, decent property and everything for $10,000. You can't do that anymore. And that's just in my day. And you go back a bit older to my grandparents' day or whatever, and they could buy a house for like $1,000, $2,000. We've been slowly boiling and like the frog boiling, and we don't take a notice. But now a median house in the United States is like $250,000. Okay? I think if they go back to a gold-backed currency that's redeemable in gold, we're going to go right back to the $1,000 for a house sort of thing. And you're going to have to work hard, and your pay's probably going to go down to like $20 a week for these new dollars. Meanwhile, the rich people out there, they'll get converted for dollar for their old dollars that are hyperinflated. They got $1 billion. They'll buy them all up and inject that $1 billion into the new dollars and drive the price of it up. Because when you buy something, the price goes up. So they're basically buying the new dollar. And the price will go up massively. Probably, like I say, in the first 5 minutes, the price will probably double. But that's the real challenger for Bitcoin. Because at that point, Bitcoin will be in a super bubble, a hyper bubble. And then all of a sudden, the bottom drops out from underneath it. Because we got these new dollars backed by gold. This is where I think we're headed. Now we got to think about something else too here. You got your new dollars backed by gold. The Bitcoin bubble could deflate if that were to happen. The Bitcoin bubble could deflate like you've never, ever seen it deflate before. You know? But if the dollars are backed by gold, this means that if you own gold, you've got the direct thing that backs the dollars, a convertible. In other words, if they set the new price of the new dollar at, say, 2,000 new dollars for an ounce of gold, okay? Well, then, that has to continue. In other words, you could just take your time. Everybody else is rushing in to get these new dollars because the price is going up like crazy on them. One day it's $100 for one of them, and the next day it's $1,000 for one of them. You know, and it's just in the old dollars, and the old dollars just disappearing because everybody's buying these new dollars. And you could just I got my ounce of gold. I'm going to buy I get my 2,000 this week of my new dollars if I cash it in this week, or I could wait 6 months and cash my gold coin in, and I'd still get 2,000 of them. Because it would be pegged. If you see what I mean. It would be pegged to gold. So everything else would be deflating against the new dollar, but not the new dollar would be deflating against everything else, because that's what it is. It would be a deflationary dollar because it's backed by gold and redeemable in gold. It would be deflationary, just like Bitcoin. But gold wouldn't move against it because that's what it's pegged against. This is where we might be going. Very seriously. This is kind of like where the signs are pointing in this direction, you know. Anyway, listen, guys, I hope you enjoyed me rambling on about this a little bit. And maybe I gave you some ideas and things you'd never thought of before. But things are pointing in that direction. We're going to have to wait and see if it goes the way I'm talking about, you know. Maybe it won't. Maybe there's some twist that I don't have, that some information or whatever that, you know, that I'm not privy to or anything, but maybe there's something I don't know, you know, that might change things entirely. Because we've went through an awful lot of changes in the last few months. I've never seen a bad year like this before. And I'll be glad when this year's over. I'm just hoping that next year's not going to be as bad as this year. I'll catch you guys in the next show, and you guys have a great day, and give me a thumbs up, and bye-bye.